2005. I was 20 to 21 years old. I grew up to be an adult at this point. This year I wanted to try harder on mastering finding inner peace. This was my main goal this year since I accomplished the other goals in regard to reading and improving my social skills. I still felt like I struggled in these areas, however I felt like I'd done enough mastery in that area that now focusing on my spiritual side, finding inner peace, awakening to greater love and joy, and understanding the truth was now the focus now. I became overwhelmed with trying to spiritually awaken and accomplish goal in finding inner peace. Being in a constant even mind, a Christ, Buddha, positive spiritual mindset seemed overwhelming sometimes. The books that Joshua Stone wrote, a lot of it consisted of a lot of things you had to keep in mind. Like you had to balance, you had to be in a positive perspective, you need to love all the time and serve. It felt kind of overwhelming to do all that at the same time, and I felt maybe I was not doing something right. I wanted to master all this so bad, but I found that it was just overwhelming. Eventually, halfway through the year, I eventually withdrew my effort in spiritually awakening this year. I kind of gave up. I kind of felt hopeless because it was just too overwhelming. And I had a hard time passing lessons. When things undesirable happen, spiritual tests, like, for example, waiting through a red light, or when I thought about, Lorena and Jenny and Tara, I felt angry and I felt like, man, I'm not in a positive perspective. What am I doing wrong here? It felt hard and I started feeling discouraged. So I kind of stopped. I started switching my focuses back to improving my reading skills and study skills to prepare myself for next semester at Kettering. At the beginning of 2005, I didn't have to go to school. We had an off period. At Kettering University had a unique curriculum with 4 semesters that alternate from classes to working at the class for 2.5 months, and then you had 2.5 months where you're supposed to work at a co-op job. During the spring and fall, I attended classes, but during the winter, such as right now at this point of the year, and summer, I was supposed to work at a co-op job. But that depended if I actually found a job and was hired. I still needed to look. I wasn't able to find an electrical engineering co-op job yet. I searched during this time, but I also worked on my goals too. It was really nice to just work on my goals and not have to worry about doing homework and studying all those hours. I ended up getting a job at Grosse Pointe Park. Grosse Pointe has a park where they have a swimming pool and people do stuff like play sports and fish and go on boats. I did maintenance work there on the weekends. This was my first job I ever had, and I found it enjoyable. Not to mention, I was so happy to finally have my first job. I was nervous to have my first job because I didn't think I would be able to do it. During the weekdays, I spent most of the time trying to find a co-op job and working on my goals. I spent the rest of my free time I worked on my goals, trying to improve my paying attention and reading comprehension skills and trying to improve my memory. I knew that improving my memory would definitely help me study better and handle the workload. I think my disability, one of my weaknesses in my disability is short-term memory. So I try to memorize lyrics of different songs. I try to memorize phone numbers, and I even went to Borders and spent about 5 hours there almost daily trying to read as many books as I could to improve my reading skills some more too. When I didn't do those things, I spent a lot of time hanging out with my friends to improve my social skills. I spent a lot of time hanging out with my Asperger's friends. I really enjoyed having fun with them, and I found I enjoyed hanging out with them still more than anybody else I met. I drove them around and did a lot of fun things like see movies, walk the malls, and hang around at each other's houses. I enjoyed being myself, and when I was myself, I got hyper a lot. I didn't want this time to end. Unfortunately, this winter came to an end, but unfortunately, this winter came to an end and the semester started, but it ended with a grand finale, and I wasn't even expecting it. I went to Florida. I finally had a chance to go to Florida. All these years I've never been to Florida. I always wanted to go. In third grade, I always wanted to go to Florida, go to SeaWorld. When I was younger, I wanted to see palm trees. And when I got older, I still wanted to go to Florida because it was warm. It wasn't cold and snowy like it wasn't where I was at now. We went to Key West and stayed at one of my dad's friends' houses there. I went snorkeling and went on boat rides. I looked down at all the tropical fish and felt completely overjoyed. I saw fish with pretty colors. I saw fish with funny looking spots. I even saw odd jellyfish that glowed. I just was so honored to see that. It was like I could almost hear music in my head. Like the soundtrack of a beautiful movie. Once I started my second semester at Kettering, it was time to get serious again. I studied non-stop. I thought about dropping out of Kettering many times during this semester, but I did not give up. I set goals throughout the day to keep me on track. Trying to get everything done so I didn't have homework always motivated me to get everything done. Because if I didn't, I would fall behind. And once I fall behind, then it would really be hard to keep up. I always couldn't wait for the weekends. On the weekends, it was like the winter time. I hung out with my Asperger's friends again. The enjoyment I had hanging out with my friends only grew more and more as the year went on. I used to drive an hour from... I drove an hour from Flint, from Kettering University all the way to Grosse Pointe every weekend. I didn't care that I spent a lot of money on gas because it was worth it. I enjoyed seeing my friends so much over there that I rather saw them than stay at Flint and go to crazy frat parties. My friends from the Asperger's group started to expand and branch out. They started meeting more people with disabilities. Most of these people were not from Grosse Pointe. These people were similar to Scott, Jeff, and Hari, and I met most of them through them. These people had disabilities that were at a similar level, but they weren't really Asperger's. I met this one guy named Jared who had Williams syndrome. He was a riot to be around with, and he was actually one of my best friends. He always got excited to see everyone. He was very non-judgmental, forgiving, and a smooth talk that was often, which I loved. He was so funny. Dave Gerard was another guy who was obsessed with movies and video games. Sarah was an older girl in her 30s who had 2 kids. She was very witty and enjoyable to be around. Jesse also was another guy who had Asperger's syndrome. He built an entire computer mainframe in his basement. I also met a girl named Rachel. I met her through the mall. I really liked this girl, and we actually became boyfriend and girlfriend. The reason why this happened was I decided to overcome my fear and make a move and started flirting with her. I usually get nervous when I flirt with girls, like touching girls on the shoulder, but I decided that this time I decided to touch her even though I was nervous, and she liked it. And from that point I knew she liked me, and we started texting each other. We told each other that we liked each other, and eventually we got into a relationship. She was a lot of fun and always down to do something fun regardless of who they were. I liked that. She wasn't very judgmental, as it seemed. We went out for about 5 months. We always did a lot of things with people, and we met a lot of friends through her. She did have a disability. She didn't have Asperger's, but it seemed like she had some kind of learning disability. I didn't mind though, because she was very fun to be around with, and she was pretty. We also We also got to hug and kiss, and we even had sex a couple of times, and I really enjoyed it. And so did she, and that was the best part. Of all the fun we had, though, I eventually had to break up with her after 5 months, though. I found out she cheated on me. Another guy that went to a school for, another guy that she knew hit on her, and she ended up cheating on me twice. I broke up with her when I found out. I was kind of upset a couple of days, but I unfortunately wasn't too upset. In fact, I was kind of proud that I was willing to not put up with people doing that, even though I knew breaking up with her was going to be hard and it was going to be kind of a loss. The reason why I wasn't too upset, however, was because I knew, but the main reason why I wasn't upset about the fact that she cheated on me was interesting. I knew exactly what happened. People told her all the details of what happened. She basically cuddled with another guy and that was it. That made me realize something. I don't get upset about such things when it relates to cheating, as long as I know exactly what happened. I think what makes it hard to deal with cheating is the mystery of the unknown. You guessing what could have happened and start imagining the worst possible things. So I looked at the good things about what happened in the relationship, and a lot of good things did happen, and I really appreciated it. We did have a lot of fun times, although it wasn't meant for the relationship to continue. I was happy we were together, and the best part is we continued to be friends.